Hey guys, Matt Jones here in America's capital, Washington DC, actually in Arlington, outside the Marine Corps monument, and just over my right shoulder that way we've got the Arlington Cemetery, and you can see behind me here just the last bit of packing up and a few tents just down here in this little dip in the ground there. As the final bit of packing up is happening after the Marine Corps Marathon, which took place on Sunday. So I just wanted to say, Chris, good to see you, mate. Hope you're staying safe, mate. I just wanted to say to everyone, thanks very much for your support the last 55 days as I've been journaling this leading up to the Marine Corps Marathon. And particularly to the team at The Mission Continues, Ali and everyone. Thanks for welcoming me aboard, and it's been great to be part of that effort. But it's been really interesting to document the journey and to have you on board as I was going about that too. I certainly learned a lot about myself. I shared a lot more than I expected, and I found a lot of things about this journey, about raising awareness about the mental health among veterans. Much more about that than I expected. I had the opportunity to experience issues about veterans in Korea and also here in America, which was advantageous, and a ton of conversations along the way. So it's been a really rich experience, and yeah, look, much more than I anticipated. And what I also saw was that there's a broader correlation between this issue and a more generic question around mental health. That distinction between mental illness and mental health I thought was also important to identify. So let's just come back to this place here, this great statue you can see from Iwo Jima. I understand there's a film made about how this statue was put up there and how the flag was actually raised, and then when they got the official photographer to come back, they went to all these painstaking measures to make sure they got the flag raised and was symmetrical and everyone was looking the right way. But artistically, you can see it's a great form. All the faces are facing, none of them are facing this direction. They're all facing on the other side. There's a great sense of symmetry to this, a great sense of solidarity and purpose. There's a great sign, you can just see at the back here, uncommon valor. Uncommon valor has a common virtue. So I thought I'd just to begin there. Simon, good to see you, mate. Just begin on that point, and that is that this question around veterans and mental health sits side by side these statements like this, like uncommon valor and being a common virtue. But how, really, I mean, we need to stop and ask ourselves, how can it actually be? How can it be that these people who have this uncommon valor and strength to do the things they did in places like Iwo Jima, generically, I'm talking about service people across the board, how can it be that they then suffer so much from low mental health at different times, and how that can be so badly recognised by the community? I think that's an interesting question. It might seem self-evident that, well, we're all human and we're all vulnerable, and we all have an ability to be afflicted by different things. But I think in that question is part of this answer of addressing mental health among the veteran community. Not entirely. I mean, it's a very big issue. So a couple of things I learned. It's a bit rambly, I'm sorry, but let me get to the point. Firstly, today's the 1st of November here in America. Yesterday and Sunday afternoon, I was completely wiped out after the run. That was partly, I think, because of my preparation. Also, the amount of time I spent in transit getting to DC, because I got bumped off a flight, and then I hadn't really addressed my jet lag before I started running. I felt great the first half of the marathon, But the second half I certainly flagged. I really felt it, and that's good to really feel worked and exhausted. I enjoyed that, but it was also good to rest up yesterday and just get my strength back. I'm feeling pretty good now. I'm not up to running just yet. Maybe tomorrow, the next day, but I'll just take it easy for the next week and then build up into something. But the interesting thing was, as I explored more and more this question of the sort of ecosystem, if you like, of people addressing the question of veterans and mental health among veterans, there's so much activity out there. There's often a lot of stuff that happens that is seemingly counterproductive. A lot of power plays, a lot of land grabs, a lot of people fighting for the conch. I think to some degree that is some degree necessary. That's just part and parcel of organisations. But the point of all of that is it's such a big and broad encompassing thing that it's too expansive to just stop at one point and bring people together and say, okay, let's talk about this problem. I think it has to be done by people who are committed to the issue and who are intimately working with the problem and who are connected to some way of delivering the solutions. I think it's great for people to be involved, but we've got to have the means to actually deliver as well. Like in Australia at the moment, there's a bit of bun fighting around the RSL, which is sort of a generational change issue to some degree. And I think that's a sort of a necessary thing a necessary discussion to some degree. And it's been managed reasonably well. But we shouldn't let those things cloud the nature of the issue, which is caring for veterans. So the first thing is that it's a very involved and a complex issue that involves a community of people who have had a vast array of different experiences, and understanding those people is key. Second point is, this morning I went for a walk in Arlington Cemetery, and I was interested to see that not everyone who's buried there died on active service. A lot of people there, a lot of the gravestones I saw are from people who served, have died and now been buried in Arlington. And why I thought that was interesting is, walking around, you just got to see the vast distinction of different people who have served in America, where they've come from, their different ranks, their names, a whole range of different things. So many gravestones, each one telling a different story. None of those gravestones really do I know the story of at all. And in terms of the people, maybe of some of the units or where they serve, certainly, but not of the people. And so this issue of raising awareness for mental health among the veteran community, I think the most important thing that we as a broader community, I'm talking here about the generic community, that we can do is to when the opportunity arises, take the time to sit down and listen to a veteran and just say to them, so how are things going for you, and what was your experience like, and just sit and listen. Don't make this like a pet project. Don't have this as a list of your things to do, but when the opportunity arises, embrace the opportunity. And I mean, it might be completely unsurprising. It might be just a fairly benign conversation. Don't expect to hear necessarily something from Hollywood. And that's part of the point, is we're talking about people who have had experiences. We're not talking about movie stars So take time to understand these people. I think that's part of helping to address this issue of mental health in the community. Third point I just want to talk about was about the general us, which is, so what are we going to do now? And one thing I'd invited people to do was to join with me on this sort of +10 to help me in my training, commit me to doing my training schedule, where I asked people to do 10 minutes of physical activity a day, just in solidarity with me as I went about my training. Now I can look back at my training, I can see where I fell short, when I was filling off and I took a rest, but I should have got out there and trained, when I didn't push as hard as I should have, when I cut it a kilometre back, and I reckon that all came home to roost during the marathon. But I learned from that, right? So I got a lot out of people joining me on this +10 initiative. So thanks for everyone who was involved in that. And I hope, and I understand from a lot of your comments, it was really great for you too. So the question is, what now? What now for you guys? There's this direct correlation between mental health and fitness. And many of you have shared very personal stories of your own situation. This is people who have not served in the military. Explaining to me, in basic medical terms, this correlation that you've had with respect to mental health and fitness. So I think it's really important, and I'd encourage you to now continue with this +10. That if you've been doing +10, we've set the bar really low, purposefully, so everyone can join in. So if you've been doing +10 like meditation, 10 minutes a day, then maybe think about raising the bar just a little bit, and maybe make that 10 minutes of a walk a day. Or if you're smashing it out in the gym and you're putting an extra 10 minutes on, maybe looking at alternating the routine, bringing in some new exercises for that 10 minutes. But just commit to that 10 minutes. I think it's a really important thing to have in your routine. As for me, I've benefited from this experience in terms of refocusing me, not just in this one here, but broadly across everything I do. So this is, for me, has been the sort of closure of one exit and a new beginning, as Tom Stoppard has said in a quote. I think the quote I put on the link here, something about there's no exits, only new beginnings. And to some degree, that's relevant for this issue of veterans and mental health as well. Is that when people leave the military, it can be a pretty daunting exit, but it's actually a new beginning. So it's entry into something else, and I think that needs to be navigated with care. But as for me, Beck, a friend of mine on Facebook, had a post about a thing called, I think it's called Nano Raito, and it means it's a sort of a group challenge where people individually, as a sort of corporate body, are going to write a novel each, about 50,000 words during the course of November. And so I've committed to that this month, because today is the 1st of November. So I'm excited about that, and I was thinking, what would I write about? And there's been a few storylines in the back of my head that I might pick up, but they were sort of a bit frivolous, they were things I'm going to get to eventually, but they weren't really as important as they are for right now. But I realised that there's a lot of material that I've been looking at over the last 55 days, and I wanted to do something with that and to use that as a resource to share. But I thought if I just put it into some sort of self-help book or some sort of presentation, it could be a bit dry and maybe not accessible to everyone. I mean, people just might be turned off by that. A bit sort of along the lines of death by PowerPoint. And so as I was walking up here, I had this insight that what I would actually be doing is I'm going to turn that into a novel, a fictional character, maybe a few fictional characters who will explore their journeys and I'll weave these learnings in some way in amongst that. So I've got a month to sort of work that out. Looking forward to delivering on that at the end of the month, and then seeing where I might go with that. But this is the 1st of November. It is here. I mean, it's maybe the 2nd of November if you're in the southern hemisphere or on the other side of the Greenwich Mean Time dateline, whatever it's called. But listen, whether it's 1st or 2nd of November, you know, we've got pretty much the whole month ahead of us. A lot of big things coming up. You know, the media is going to have our attention with the election in America and so on and so forth. Don't buy into that. You come first, and so what are you going to do with your time this month? And that's what I want to leave you with. This is your next project, really. I'm getting on with mine now that I've finished this. I want to ask you, what are you going to do with your time this next month? What are you going to achieve in this next month? What's your big thing that you're going to do? You've seen me come on this journey over the last 55 days. So I want to throw that challenge down to you now, for you to pick up the baton and run with it. Because just to close off, this is really closing off this last 55 days. The marathon's finished. We've had some great success. I'm looking forward to getting this book gripped up so I can then use what I've learnt to deliver that to people who need it. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who's given me love, people who have supported the Mission Continues, people who have given me great encouragement through their comments, and the wonderful support I've had from people giving their +10 love comments too. It's been great. Thanks for being part of the team. We did it. We finished the marathon. It was a tough journey, a lot of fun, and I think I might even be back here next year. So stay tuned. I'd love to hear your comments. Stay connected. Thanks, guys.